So I don't actually believe in a zombie apocalypse, but what I do believe in is that emergencies happen, natural disasters happen, wars happen. And with what's going on in China and Taiwan and some of these other places, World War III is knocking at the door. So what can we do to prepare? There's some things we can do financially. Yes, there's some great investments that we might be able to be involved in, but I'm going to go a little bit more basic on this particular video to share with you some things that I think that you ought to do immediately to prepare for what's coming in the future, what could be coming, and quite frankly, some of the things that are on the horizon. So without further ado, let's get into it. My name is Paris Clough, and this is Financial Self-Reliance. On this channel, I love to help people manage, protect, and grow their money. And in this video, I want to share with you some ways that you can protect your assets and keep yourself safe in times of emergency. Now, is a zombie apocalypse going to happen? I don't know. But if we have massive civil war or civil unrest, or we've actually seen some civil unrest in the recent past, they certainly do act like zombies as they're walking down the streets, thrashing businesses and destroying properties and wrecking and ruining things that they shouldn't be doing. So there's definitely, we've seen some things in some cities, some areas. It may not have affected you, but I promise that if you are prepared for things, you won't need to fear if they ever do come to you or come to a city near you. One of the things that I like to do when I plan on preparing is one of the first things that I suggest, and you'll see a lot of influencers actually in the recent past. I've actually seen a lot of them talking about a couple of these things. One is get food storage. If there's a world war, if there's another situation where you've got to have some, the supply chain is affected, you're going to want to have some food stored in your house, ready to go. I highly recommend that you take 90 days of your food and store it in somewhere in your house. For example, if you eat breakfast, whatever you eat for breakfast, try to get 90 days worth of it. Then go to lunch, try to get 90 days worth of that, and then go to dinners. Different things that you can keep and store, and you can make sure that you have on hand, because if anything happens and the store is not available, or the roads are ruined, or you've got a situation where you can't leave your house, you're going to be able to have enough food in your current immediate area to at least survive for what's coming. The next most important thing is water storage. I personally have 10 water bottles, the cases of water bottles. There's 40 water bottles in there. I have 10 of those. I also have several hundred gallons of water stored in my garage and other areas in my house and my property, because water is one of the biggest things that we need to have in case of an emergency. If there's an earthquake or a tornado or some kind of natural disaster, or even if you lose your job or you need to have food and water to eat, you're going to have a situation where you're going to be okay if you have food stored and water stored. Another thing that you want to do is, in my opinion, is have gear. For example, if you need to grab and go, or if you need to get out of Dodge, so to speak, because the zombies are coming, you're going to want to have a 96 hours, because 72 hours is really not as long enough. Most emergency first responders, if there's a massive earthquake in a massive situation or a big civil unrest, it's going to take a lot longer to get to you, because there's a lot of things going on, and they can't get to everybody, and so it's going to take a little longer. So make sure you have a 96-hour kit. Make sure you have some clothing there. Make sure you have a good rope, good knife. Make sure you have some rations, and make sure you have some water, and make sure you have it in a bag that can grab and go and carry. And even if you need to walk or get to a safer spot, you've got that available to you. Another thing that I would highly recommend is gear. If you've got to stay in your home and the power's out, make sure you have plenty of flashlights. Make sure that you have plenty of, I personally like the headbands, the lights that you can put on your head so that you can be hands-free. I also highly recommend that you have some way to cook. I have a barbecue with propane. So I have a bunch of propane tanks that I've stored up in case that my stove, or in case the electricity goes out or the gas goes out. I still have a way to cook the food that I've stored. Another thing you can do is actually just get like a camp stove or something like that you would take hiking or camping, and have that somewhere on your property that you can access, so that you can use that to cook food that you need. So those are some of the key things that I would have first. After that, honestly, and that can take a lot of money to get to that point. But honestly, after that, I would highly recommend, especially if we have some civil unrest and some other things, is to get a way to protect yourself. I highly believe in the Second Amendment. I love the Second Amendment. I think that you should take and respect the Second Amendment, get a good firearm, get trained on how to use it, and then get precious metals, which is, obviously one of the more common precious metals in investing is gold and silver. But the third precious metal that Second Amendment people believe in is called brass, which is ammunition. So get a bunch of ammunition. I promise you that if things go south and people start raiding different neighborhoods or in different houses, especially if you have food and resources, they're going to want to raid your food and resources. So you're going to want to absolutely have some way to protect yourself with Second Amendment, with firearms, with ammunition. After those types of things, you're going to want to have long-term storage. So long-term food storage is those kinds of storages that can be, staples like wheat and rice and beans and freeze-dried foods and other foods that are highly that have a really long shelf life. Canned food is going to be excellent for you. If they've actually run a lot of scenarios, and I don't know if this is going to happen. I'm not trying to fear or causing a lot of fear, but they've run a lot of scenarios. If our country gets hit by an EMP or even a coronal mass ejection from the sun, we could lose power for a long time, and that could take a while for them to rebuild that. It could take months. In fact, there's several of these apocalyptic books that have come out, and they've kind of run scenarios for most people. And the number one killer for most people is that they don't have enough food. The next killer is they don't have the proper hygiene. So first aid, after you've gotten everything that I've talked about, get your first aid kits stocked. Make sure you have plenty of antibiotics. Make sure you have plenty of hygienic stuff. Make sure you have plenty of pain reliever. You make sure you have plenty of everything that you might need in case people get hurt. Because one of the biggest problems is after you have an emergency or some kind of situation, if somebody can't get to you, you can't get to a hospital because the roads are closed, you're going to need to do a little bit of first aid right there on the spot to make sure that the people that you're working with or you're dealing with or even yourself aren't going to be subject to worse infections after the initial wound. So make sure you have a good, strong first aid kit, and then take classes on how to use the first aid kit. It doesn't do you any good to have hundreds of dollars worth of first aid items, and then you have no clue how to apply them. You don't know which bandages to use. You don't know which stitches to use. You don't know which, salves to use. So it's important to get some training and get some skill sets on that. So I highly recommend the things that I've just shared with you regarding preparing for the zombie apocalypse. You can take money and you can invest it in these skills and in this gear and in this equipment that you can have on hand. If an emergency never happens, trust me, it's the old saying of I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it will come to play. And you'll be glad that you had it, glad that you are prepared, and you'll have a lot more confidence and assurance. Frankly, what do we just see in the news? As the recording of this video, we had a huge fire in Hawaii. People just were gone. Their houses were gone. If they had a grab and go bag with stuff that they could just run in, grab, and then go, they'd at least have 96 hours worth of food, 96 hours worth of gear that they could survive for a little longer. And it would make what they are going through easier to survive. It's easier if you have gear and you have the equipment and you know how to use it when you have a situation like that. We don't know when it's going to hit. We don't know where it's going to hit. But I promise you, natural disasters aren't respecters of persons or places. And you might be in an area where a natural disaster might hit. To be prepared for it is going to be critical for your success. So highly recommend that you prepare for the zombie apocalypse. You prepare for natural disasters. You prepare for anything that might happen. And with what we're seeing across the globe right now, might be even preparing for civil unrest and World War III potential. So it's better to be prepared than not. I hope you got a lot out of this video. I hope you've been inspired to prepare yourself more effectively for what's coming and what might be coming to your area, to a city near you. If you missed the last video I produced, go ahead and check it out here. Subscribe to the channel up here and check out this video that YouTube thinks you might like. Until the next one, stay prepared, be ready, and have a great day.